Buenos días a todos y todas. Les damos la bienvenida.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to parallel session, Digital Transformation and Resilience of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. This is within the framework of the 8th Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in the Americas and the Caribbean. Before we start, let me reiterate for the people here present and the people who are connected remotely through hopping, we encourage you to follow SINAE on the social media, both Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where you will find all the audiovisual content, everything that's going on at this platform, so that we're all in touch. This is organized by the National Network of the Alliance of Private Sector for Disaster Risk Reduction Arise from Mexico. It will be moderated by Victor Rodriguez. Victor is a journalist, manager of the Puerto Rican Journalism Training Institute, which is an independent entity and non-for-profit, which since 2008 has been fostering access to information through 3 different ways: investigative journalism, litigation, and journalism training. It's also a master's degree holder from the University of Puerto Rico, professor of Sagrado Corazón University, and member of Report for America from the Media Advisory Board of RP23. The floor is yours, Victor. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here at this important session where we will be talking about one of the sectors which, without a doubt, is key for the development of the region, which is the micro, small, and medium enterprises. So before we start, we would like all the people of the public to join Slido. We will be conducting a poll for all participants. And on this platform, you can send your questions, which will be answering at the end of the session. MSMEs are first-line spaces for job creation and to push economic autonomy for people in the Caribbean and the Americas. The recent data of international organizations say that for 2021, there were about 12.9 million companies of this sort in Latin America and the Caribbean, of which a small percentage are micro companies. In the Caribbean, we don't have so much information, but they are a driving force for most of our archipelagos. At the same time, they are one of the sectors of the value and economic chains that are most affected in the event of disasters. Here with us, there's Erika Vargas, Director of Relations with the Community with UPS Mexico, who's going to give us an overview of how these companies can contribute to the supply chain for the organizations. Thank you very much, Victor, for your introduction. We are going to watch a video.
Salimos a las calles a preguntar a los micro, pequeños y medianos empresarios cuál es la relación de sus negocios con los desastres. ¿Qué es la resiliencia?
No sé qué es la palabra. Resiliencia, no, la verdad, ni de dónde viene eso.
¿Cómo afectan los desastres a tu negocio?
Bueno, ya pasó.
Pues en las ventas tuvimos que cerrar y perdimos parte de nuestro producto.
Pues no nada más a mi negocio, a todos nos pega, aunque sea lo mínimo, pero nos pega.
¿Qué harías hoy para evitar ese nivel de daños?
Pues ya programarnos más con otro tipo de servicio, tal vez al domicilio. ahorita con lo que está pasando, la verdad, pues sí, que hay que, dice, todo para adelante, nada para atrás.
Perfecto. Bueno, podemos ver del 100% de los encuestados.
Of 100% of the people surveyed, 14% did not know. Of 14% knew what resilience meant. The rest had no idea about what this word meant. Most of them saw digitization as an ally to address disasters. A few days ago, on February 6th, I believe that we all woke up with the terrible news of the catastrophic earthquakes in Syria and Turkey. The city of Mexico is a seismic area, and it was impressive to see how this type of news touches us. And in a few hours, the embassy of Turkey was a supply and storage center at UPS, which is a logistical company. We have embarked upon humanitarian aid, and as we were packing boxes carrying aid to the people in need, we thought about how always after a disaster there is a box. But what would happen if today, before a disaster, you get a box, a resilience box, where you can have all your tools to strengthen your organizational culture so that you are prepared for a disaster. So the SMEs group at Arise Mexico, which I lead, we have created this resilience box, which is an initiative based on a digital platform. These are the basis of the project. We are in the content development phase. With the help of our members, we are developing the first 3 modules, which include organizational leadership, disaster preparedness, and financial, economic, and legal sustainability. The goal is to develop this platform where small and medium business people can enter this digital box, do a self-assessment, and identify what their weaknesses are as regards resilience. So the target is the small and medium entrepreneurs in Mexico registered before the tax authorities, and we are prioritizing the manufacturing sector and the trade sector as well because of the significance of these 2 sectors in our GDP. The goal is for everyone to have access, but we will prioritize to start with in this sector. As I mentioned a moment ago, this platform aims at being really very friendly, easy to use for the small and medium entrepreneur, where there is a self-assessment for them to identify their areas for improvement, and this platform will let them know what trainings, tools, and resources they need for them to grow stronger in their organizational culture. And towards the end, they can do another self-assessment. And what is wonderful is that with the help of our members, we are providing commercial incentives so that SMEs are motivated. Thank you very much. Thank you, Erica. Definitely, technology is an ally, and it is key for these sectors. We have Leslie Collymore, who's the founder of Advanced Intellectual Medicine. He's connected remotely from St. Lucia, and he will share with us how these solutions for incorporating technology in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises can help create the resilience that Erica was talking about, particularly in such vulnerable areas as the Caribbean region. Leslie is connected remotely. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's actually an extreme pleasure for me to be here today representing the Caribbean. I promise that by the next time, if I am invited to do a presentation, I will actually do it in Spanish and not have to rely on translation services. So I promise to brush up on my Spanish. So I was just listening to the introductions that we were given here, and I just wanted to create some perspective, especially from the Caribbean region, in terms of medium, small, and micro enterprises, the realities that we face. And I sit on two sides of the coin. One, I am actually an MSME, but also I help MSMEs with digitization, digital media innovation. So I am one, and I provide the service, so I could speak to the realities. But I just wanted to dial back a little bit. MSMEs are the backbone of Caribbean economies. According to the Caribbean Development Bank, MSMEs represent between 70 to 85% of Caribbean businesses and contribute to 60 to 70% of the GDP. They account for an estimated 50% of total employment. Importantly, 40% of Caribbean businesses are owned by women. Scale is important. An MSME in the US or Europe is different to the MSME in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, a micro enterprise comprises of 1 to 5 employees, a small enterprise 6 to 15 employees, and a medium enterprise is 16 to 50 employees. So it's a little bit different in our Caribbean reality. For us, the high cost of technological infrastructure, example, the cost of data, hardware, and the skilled workforce is an impediment to using digital transformation. Also, most MSMEs in the region, and I really like the video that was played, constantly are in survival mode. People are concentrating on making money, and access to finance is their main issue and focus. They're extremely sensitive to shocks such as disasters, economic or social. In the Caribbean, culturally, we averse to technology. 80% do not use digitization tools in their businesses, and that is sector specific. They receive limited sustainable technical support from business support organizations. These business support organizations do not have the skills required often to assist MSMEs with digital transformation. Most MSMEs don't understand resilience. They narrowly believe it has to do with disasters and natural phenomena. But as we see, the pandemic showed us much differently. If the internet were to go down tomorrow, it would be catastrophic to most businesses. So therefore, we need to take that into consideration. MSMEs are very reactive to digitization. It's not their first thought. They think it's like a one-off. Digitization is fundamental to SME survival and growth in the Caribbean region, and I dare I say Latin America. It enables MSMEs to be able to respond to the inevitable shocks and continue to operate efficiently, safely, and cost-effectively. The ability to leverage technology opens new growth and opportunities, in particular e-commerce and electronic payment platforms. That has been slow to take off in the Caribbean because it's heavily regulated. And when we ask MSMEs, we encourage them for digitization, and we tell them, all right, we want to enable you to be able to do business easier on the internet and accept payments. It becomes a little bit more difficult because of how how our legal and regulatory frameworks are set up. Digitization allows for data-driven decision-making and reduces the knee-jerk and often emotional decision that micro and small enterprises make. So, what do we do? What do we need to make digital transformation a success? We need to rethink SME development strategies and put digitization at the center of reform. We need to invest in infrastructure and regional connectivity, promoting digital skills and encouraging the adoption of new technologies via standards. We need to foster legislative and policy ecosystem that enables the ease of digitization. Again, in the Caribbean region, it is particularly difficult. We say that we want to encourage digitization, but our legal and regulatory ecosystem does not allow for that. We need to help MSMEs understand that digital transformation is not a one-off, but rather a journey. The technology is constant, but really we should focus on the people and our processes. And we need to rethink how we communicate resilience. To a micro and small enterprise, what does resilience mean? To MSMEs, we need to really redevelop how technology and innovation is branded, is packaged, and to help them build sustainable businesses. Because when you start speaking in terms of resilience, the average small enterprise doesn't understand what that means. So this is where I wanted to leave us in terms of just the presentation. I guess we'll discuss a little bit further, but these are just some touch points. I think that digitization and digital transformation is imperative to MSME growth and survival, especially that we are in the information age. We are no longer in the industrial age. So it is a prime objective for us. And so I will leave us here, but I hope I provided some perspective and I did the panel justice.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Leslie, por ese testimonio.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for your testimonial and for your important statements. Without a doubt, digitization and the regulatory frameworks, and particularly infrastructure in the countries of this region, are key to be able to grow resilience. Before we move on, I would like for everyone in the audience to go on Slido. You have on the screen 3310-412. That's the code you need to use. And I encourage you to answer a poll which will help us draw a conclusion and identify solutions for these questions, and also for sharing your questions. In speaking about what Leslie was mentioning as regards regulatory framework, there's Carmen Sanchez, who's the president of the National Development Agency of Uruguay. We welcome you, and we would like you to share your experience here in Uruguay. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be here, and I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation. I would like to share a few numbers, as Leslie was just speaking about his region, the Caribbean. Here in Uruguay, we have about 200,000 SMEs, which represent 99.6% of the total companies in the country, which generate 65% of jobs in the private sector. So this is an extremely important sector for the business fabric of my country. However, when we look at the proportion of the sales of these small companies, they are barely 20%. So here we have a first problem. There is a big productivity gaps vis-a-vis large companies. There are many companies, they employ many workers, but their contribution to sales and thus to the country's GDP is quite slow. Besides, when we analyze the evolution of SMEs over the past few years, we see that between 2009 and 2021, they have increased considerably. More than 20,000 companies were created. But when we look at the mortality rate, we also see the deaths of many companies. So we have a birth rate of 16% of companies and a mortality rate of 13%. This speaks about great turbulence and very big company rotation, so to speak. And this is one of the problems that we have identified when it comes to creating public policies for SMEs. And finally, another problem we see, which we think is important, is that most micro companies can't grow over time. They can't become dynamic and growth companies. For example, after 5 years of life of a micro companies, only 1 out of 10 can become a small company, and 1 out of 1,000 can become a medium-sized company, which means that it would seem that there are no barriers for companies to enter or join the system, enter or leave the system, but there are hurdles to the dynamic growth of these micro and small companies. So considering the importance of SMEs, but the big problems that we have identified in connection with survival and growth, there is a lot of work to be done from the public policy perspective to provide support to this sector. Our government has made a big commitment to small companies and micro companies before we took office. When we took office, In 2020, in March of 2020, the health emergency was declared and resources were made available for small and medium-sized companies. And today we continue to reinforce this goal. And one of the aspects where we have been working very hard from the government, and particularly from the National Development Agency in particular, it has to do with the digitization of small and medium-sized companies. Our country is well positioned at the regional and Latin American Caribbean level in connection with the use of ICTs, broadband and mobile coverage. Most of our almost 100% of the online formalities are done online, as I have said, so the ICT usage is very high. However, this doesn't reach out to small and medium-sized companies. 40% of SMEs use some type of software product for accounting and administrative tasks, and half of them does or do online purchases and sales. So in 2022, at the beginning of last year, we launched a digital mode program, which is a $15 million worth program that we have developed jointly with the IDB, whose goal is to improve the performance of MSMEs through the incorporation of digital tools. And to conclude, I'd like to point out some of the important items of this program. First of all, MSMEs have little information and knowledge about the benefits of digitization. That's why it's important to raise awareness among companies. In addition, a comprehensive approach needs to be applied, incorporating or encompassing both supply and demand. We have to work on supply so that the ICT sector can have specialized support services for MSMEs. There are no single recipes, or there's no one size fits all. So we need to
que la transformación sea exitosa, la empresa tiene que lograr incorporar
support them throughout the process.
Es necesario el financiamiento
so that companies can incorporate the benefits of digitization. Funding is necessary, but not only funding, because working on digital talent within organizations themselves is extremely important. I am running out of time. There are many more experiences to bear. Probably I will be able to elaborate at the Q&A session. Thank you very much, Carmen Sanchez. Without a doubt, scalability of companies see technology as a key element, and raising awareness is also key for companies to understand what the benefits and for everyone to understand for the benefits of technology is for them. So as part of this discussion, we would have the presence of José Di Bella, who is the Director for Latin America of the Transform Program of Waterloo University. He will be sharing the perspective from the academia. So how digitalization should be key for the public, for the government and private sectors, how these initiatives can be carried out to help not only micro and small and medium-sized companies, but also citizens. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. I'm at Waterloo University, and I've been working on this project called Transform, which really focuses on the understanding of how SMEs are adopting not just sustainability practices, but also practices oriented to disaster risk reduction. We have conducted several initiatives in Mexico, Colombia, and recently I have been working with all the networks of the Central American region, providing training to SMEs. And we have been reflecting upon this part of resilience, but most specifically sustainability. And one of the ways in which we have started to work with these companies within the SMEs range, the Canadian classifications go up to 500 employees. And Latin American classifications go up to 250 for medium-sized companies. So we are talking about organizations that have a great potential of having a strong impact on the reality of local communities. So in this process of training and work with companies, the role of the academia is one, to position them and to provide them with a context of global and local change. And as a result of the pandemic, but also as a result of many other threats and hazards that have arisen over the past 5 to 7 years, we have seen that there is much more reception and understanding, not just in connection with climate change, but also in connection with the volatility of their regions. And they are interested in embracing new practices and understanding this topic for gaining resilience. We have seen a positive growth in this regard. One of the challenges for us as academics is to understand how to translate science, and as well as these recommendations coming from the agencies working on organizational resilience promotion, helping them to understand this concept. And that's the first step. And the second step is that it's not just a matter of understanding the concept and working on it in an abstract manner. There is a great challenge teaching what the next steps should be, how the implementation should be, and applying these concepts to the reality of every organization, to the reality of the language they use, to the culture that the organization has, and based on that, help them work on that process of innovation. Part of the innovation process has to do with digitalization, without a doubt, but most importantly for me, this is not a technical process, but rather a social process. And in this quest for helping them strengthen their partnerships, identifying who in the community they can collaborate with for making decisions and for strengthening that capacity. And we will speak more specifically about the disaster risk reduction cycle and prevention and response, preparedness, and even reconstruction processes. The use of digital platforms is something key. And one of the main challenges also, there being a universe of possibilities, is to help companies work with those resources and platforms that they already have access to and that are being facilitated so that risk information can be shared, so that they can participate in different communication opportunities locally, either discussion fora, or having access to funding, different sources of funding. For example, in Chile, I worked with SMEs a few years ago. Access to digital platforms was key to access to investment resources for rehabilitation and reconstruction processes. And SMEs don't have this in mind. So there is a key role for intermediary organizations who are facilitating and working with governments, promoting programs to communicate these activities.
One of the ways to do it is by participating in the different communities. We are trying to invite those who medium and big companies to provide the knowledge to spread the different practices that they have already done in order to strengthen their own organizational resilience. Beyond that, we would like to work along with all these SMEs, not only part of their supply chain, but also those who are part of the community. We have seen those in some cases, for instance, in the tourism sector, where they are doing huge efforts, not from a hotel chain, but also they are coordinated from different hotels of the area, so they can have flooding prevention measures and to do some other work in terms of community sustainability. We can see that the private sector is also changing, and certainly technologies are giving all the necessary means to do it. The academia perspective is also very important so we can ease the different tests and the different movements so they can strengthen local resiliency. Thank you for your time. I think it's already over. I don't see the counter here in my screen. I don't know how long I've been speaking, but I would like to thank you for paying attention to whatever I said and to be close to the work that we are doing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jose. The global context that the academia can provide or can offer is also talking to everything that Leslie has mentioned, the different circumstances, the different infrastructure, the cultural ideas in a region of the Caribbean that is not only shared, but also we can learn from them. Thank you for both, for four inputs. I would like to provide the result from the Slido poll so we can share that information with our panelist members.
Para maximizar el tiempo, sí, porque veo que tenemos varias preguntas.
In order to use our time efficiently, because we have a lot of questions, we know that there is a lot of interest from the public. We would like to start with a question, and maybe we can start from the same order that it has been presented. So the question is how to make that big companies see micro, small, and medium companies as a strategic partner for the supply chain resiliency. Well, first of all, I would like to start by saying that in UPS and in many big companies, we are sharing the same concept. Within our own culture for more than 15 years, we've always gotten the same objective, not to open the territory and make business, but also to help the community to thrive. So our UPSs can be there. That is why we have the foundation. And this is important to have these SMEs. And Carmen was saying some figures that are quite similar, and they can change on one or two numbers in 98 of all these small entrepreneurs that will represent the total amount of the companies in our countries. So it would be something sensible to think that big companies or big industries are not considering this as an strategic partners. Either they are within the same supply chain and we depend on them to provide the service, or they can change into one of our customers. The thing is that companies are not being considered as partners, but also they are offering different initiatives, programs for all of them in order to strengthen in a more isolated way. So I think Arise working groups is exactly what they're trying to do, to get all together as big companies, as government, as the academia, as the social, civil society, and work all together to be heading to the same direction. So this is what we're trying to do, to create a hub where we can have some other economic benefits, not only for SMEs, but for the community, so we can help them in a digital way so they can be in that one single hub. And now I would like to give this question to Carmen. Is there a role for these financial institutions to provide their enhancement to SMEs? So what is the government role in that sense? Well, in our country, we know that this is one of the pillars, and that is just to provide that. We know that we have the inclusion of these programs. We know that we have the digital transformation program, and we are also working from the financial sector, if there is an acquisition, if this is a package that should be included or not. This is one from the reduction of interest rates that is also important for the companies. They could also take some credits that is not costly with a lot of quality in terms of the needs of the company. We're also working with this warranty system that we have this warranty for credits, and the incorporation will be one of the lines that could be warranty. So this is something that is not working yet, but we're working from the private sector. This role is not to finance a specific program, but also to create the different financial conditions so companies can have access to. We have a question from the audience to Leslie. How can we work together as SME or in an isolated way in the Caribbean?
Okay, so I think I'm understanding the question. So we're asking, how do we work together as SMEs in the Caribbean region? I believe one of the major ways that we can achieve that is working through business support organizations, such as your chambers of commerce. There was an initial question that I wanted to touch on, which was how can large companies and MSMEs come together and work together within the supply chain. I can speak for the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce. There's a program called the Member Support Program, where large organizations actually partner with small organizations to teach them best practices, but also to partner with them to utilize some of their services that they otherwise would not do. They would have to outsource anyway. And so there is that member support partnership program that has worked between large organizations and MSMEs. But to take the question in terms of how we work together, I think that, as I mentioned during my presentation, MSMEs are in survival mode. They're trying to sustain themselves. They're trying to feed their families. They're trying to pay the bills. And so it's be very difficult for an MSME on its own to say, all right, I'm going to just mobilize everyone. So that is where our business support organizations need to come in and provide that kind of support and mobilize and organize the MSMEs to come together. I know in St. Lucia, we have the small business enterprise unit that does a lot of that in terms of bringing the SMEs together, but providing technical support for them through access to finance, through digitization, through proper bookkeeping and record keeping. So that is one of the ways that we need to do that. But again, the responsibility, it's collaborative, but I would say that our business support organizations in the Caribbean region need to really elevate their level of support to MSMEs, because as we all know that MSMEs are critical to the survival of these small economies. And if there's not enough support for them, you will start to see a tremendous level of economic decay taking place.
Muchas gracias, Leslie.
Thank you very much, Leslie. This question that you are sharing, I would like to give it to Jose. In the region, are there digital transformation programs for SMEs, micro and SMEs?
Desconozco con especificidad qué tipo de programas existan.
Thank you, but I'm not aware of all the programs that you can find out there. I know that there is a system for supporting MSMEs, not only from the local bank, but also at the different training levels that are given through the different organizations. For instance, the National or Colombian Security Board and other specialized organizations. But talking from the academia perspective and trying to second what Leslie has said, I think it is really important, and what we are looking and we're trying to start working with the different MSMEs to provide a different support to test new technologies and process, is trying to do it as an experiment. And what I mean with all of this is to have a concrete and precise test of the implementation of a practice. And this is with the medium-sized and large-sized companies, as well as other organizations, could have an opportunity to prove how to do things correctly. And this process is not only focused in the process, but also is the pathway that we are following the same measures. And sometimes companies do not have enough time to carry out them. But when they get together with some other organizations, then they're willing to participate in these different processes, either digitalization or others, and the use of platforms and the collaboration with other organizations. For instance, one of the projects that we have in Guatemala between two organizations are working in running tests for 2 to 4 months. And this is essential, not only due to the different agencies boosting this type of topics, but also providing these initiatives, because this is a way just to share best practices, especially in this MSMEs sector. We need to find what are the most proper and optimal strategies and help them to get there, how to do things and the how-come of everything. Before we continue with questions, because we have a lot of reflections, we would like to present the results from the survey that we were asking at the beginning.
En menos de 5 palabras, compártenos
in less than 5 words, what are the main challenges before disasters? Then we have technical support, the financial areas, one of the elements that we are saying. It's an essential part from those challenges when we are talking about minimization of these disasters, the lack of knowledge, the risk transfers, the resource transfers, how to be more digital. So thank you for those answers and for participating in our poll or survey. Before we continue, because I think this is very close to the digitalization program, I would like to pose a question to Erika. If she can remind us what is inside of this resilience box. I see financing as a topic and also why so important. In UPS, we are very involved or committed to the humanitarian response. And it says that for every dollar that we invest in resilience, we're going to save 7 in humanitarian responses. If there are no resources, that means that we need to use our resources in a more strategic and intelligent way. Maybe we can direct those dollars for resilience preparation, for sustainable development. And this is exactly what this resilience box is trying to do, to become a digital hub. So we get all these different sectors so we can strengthen the resilience culture within the SMEs. We have done 10 that are essential, 10 chapters. We carried out a study with some of the companies after the pandemic. And if you strengthen our organizational leadership, if the leader from the small company is okay or is not okay, what is going to happen? So we needed to strengthen that module. We needed to strengthen the risk knowledge. Maybe you have never asked yourself what are the risks you're exposed to. So maybe we needed to strengthen these 3. We have already made 7 more, even adding the planning before the disaster, what I'm going to enable, what I'm going to need. And then we have, at the end, post-disaster recovery plan. So this is all about trainings, resources, and tools, and the private sector is participating in incentivizing small, medium, and big companies, providing commercial benefits. This other question I would like to pose it to Carmen Sanchez. What is the profile of the small entrepreneur in terms of education for the particular case of Uruguay? Well, we have several surveys where we have worked with those type of figures. We have the small entrepreneur where they have junior high education, and in Uruguay the percentage of these entrepreneurs and have already gone university level is a very slow amount. And this is related to what we have as entrepreneurship due to opportunity or to the needs of it. So many of them are just starting their business as an alternative, or there is a self-employment. We have an 85% of micro companies in our SMEs universe. Most of them are micro companies because the entrepreneur or the businessman is taking this opportunity for self-employment. It's not that he is well trained for that. Is they have at least junior high studies, and that's it, at least in our country. So within the same line, maybe Jose can help us out in how can we motivate these small or micro companies, and specifically for including these educational factors to make a progress. Thank you. Yes, this is something that we've been working recently, trying to convey the importance of resilience. Also with a series of stories, of success stories, and how to illustrate the potential role they have. And as part of this social process with a contribution that will provide a benefit, and maybe those alliances and those partners with others are also paramount. That message, providing this inspiration to SMEs, have helped them to participate. Another important point is that in all the projects that we are carrying out, we have the financial resources at the center, and then they would have the opportunity to make the decision in what type of practice, and with along the academia provide some shape to all the initiatives. So it is important to let them participate, so all the people that are already there can also be able to identify what are their priorities, because the whole universe and all the recommendations that we have for strengthening the organization or for getting a role in the social resiliency, it's not only that. It's just a big overview, a big scope. And depending on each of the companies and on their own organizational status and technical status, can participate, so they can develop their own capabilities. This is something very important that we work with all the different SMEs and how to approach them. Definitely, this is a whole topic to keep discussing and trying to find these meeting points to develop the different sectors, either the private or the public, in addition to the academia, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as the citizens, are the ones that at the end of the chain are looking for the services and products that are being offered. Sensitization, infrastructure, and financing has been key, and have been already mentioned by all the people here. So these are the key elements to develop. And of course, the last topic is what is the education? How to incorporate the different elements to the development processes of scalability that we were talking about before. for the benefit of micro, small, and medium enterprises. We would like to thank everybody for being here with us, for answering our poll, for sending your questions. Definitely, this is quite an interesting conversation that should keep going. We would like to thank the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for this event that is so needed for this 8th platform for disaster risk reduction in the Americas and in the Caribbean. Our region needs to keep discussing and talking about it. They need to keep identifying the risk, challenges, and mainly what are the different opportunities to incorporate science and technology to their own processes, to their own working and growing processes. Thank you very much for being here with us. We are about to finish this session, the digital transformation and resilience of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Thank you to the moderator and to the speakers for all their inputs. In this room, we will have at 14:15. We have the development of resiliency based on evidence-based financing or resilient development, Before that, I would like to remind you some of the things that have been asked. First of all, vaccination that is available, that are for those who are here on site. We have vaccines modules for those who would like to get it, and the one that we are giving is Pfizer. On the other hand, we would like to remind you that we are promoting sustainability, and that's why you will see some water dispensers and trying to not use the single-use plastic. If you don't have bottle, well, we're trying to promote not using all the glasses that you can have access to, and also to find all the recycling stations. You can leave your waste for that, paper, plastics, or organic waste. Thank you very much for everybody to participating here. We will see each other at 14 hours.